Well, it didn't take long, did it? Yes, a Reform UK councillor has resigned already. Yes, Donna Edmonds, a newly elected Reform councillor for Hodnet and Shropshire, has resigned from the party after being suspended just days after the local elections. And the suspension came after she suggested on social media, yes, Twitter, that cesspit, that she might actually defect from the party. Yes. And anyway, following her suspension, as I said, she quit the party and launched criticism against the party leader, Nigel Farage of ignorance, calling him a terrible leader who claims personal credit for every win and stabs people in the back. Not only did they win a fair amount of council seats, they actually took control of 10 councils and possibly, was it winning 2 mayoralties? I know they won Greater Lincolnshire with our vile dame Andrex Jenkins. But also Donna Edmonds, let's be honest, she's not far behind when it comes to being vile, because she's previously expressed support for our wee Tommy 10 names and called out for a statue of him in every town square. So yes, we can guarantee we know who's the village idiot in Shropshire. And she's also defended the suspended MP Rupert Lowe. Yes, I don't know what's the fascination with our dour boring Rupert Lowe. We all remember his 10-minute motion on quantitative easing and the absolute charade and the shambles that was. But anyway, we all know that he's in legal dispute with Farage, and this incident comes as Reform UK's transition from being an opposition party to taking control of, you could say, local governments. And the situation highlights some of the challenges Reform UK faces as it grows rapidly following its electoral success, including managing its large number of newly elected wingnuts. I mean officials. Sorry. And maintaining its discipline. Yeah, discipline. Now, this resignation of Donna Edmonds likely has both immediate and potential long-term effects on Reform UK, particularly as they're trying to transition from being primarily a protest party to actually governing at a local level. And could it have immediate effects? Possibly, because one councillor resigning from hundreds elected won't significantly affect their ability to control the councils they've won. But the timing is problematic, isn't it? Happening just days after the electoral success creates a negative news cycle that distracts from what should have been a victory lap for the party. But it also raises concerns about how well Reform vetted their Fruit Loops, candidates, before the elections, and especially since Edmonds has previously made controversial statements about our wee Tommy 10 names. Now, could there be potential long-term concerns? Well, Reform now has hundreds of newly elected lunatics, councillors, I do apologise, with no prior political experience who will face increased scrutiny. Now, this early resignation could signal challenges in maintaining party discipline. Also, there could be potential leadership tensions because Edmonds' criticism of Farage as a terrible leader who stabs people in the back highlights potential internal division, especially regarding Farage's leadership style. And Reform is transitioning from opposing to governing, you could say, on a local level, though. This early controversy, combined with other issues mentioned like promising to eliminate diversity officers, even if they don't exist, may raise questions about their readiness to effectively run local governments. And if Edmonds' complaints about the party being a cult at war with its own grassroots resonate with other new councillors, it could potentially lead to more defections. Now, the impact ultimately depends on whether this is an isolated incident or the beginning of a pattern. And if it's just one disgruntled councillor, Reform can likely just move past it. And if it's indicative of a broader internal issue, it could undermine their recent electoral success. And we all remember what happened with UKIP. There was absolute massive infighting, wasn't there? How could this incident impact on Nigel Farage's leadership credentials? Well, Edmund's direct criticism that Farage is a terrible leader who claims personal credit for every win and stabs people in the back attacks the core of his leadership persona, doesn't it? And her accusation that Farage does it to everyone who looks like they might be a viable leader to keep his party running as the Farage Show suggests a systemic approach to eliminating internal competition. And we all remember what happened to our racist Rupert Lowe, don't we? And the claim that reform is a cult at war with its own grassroots contradicts Farage's populist image, who representing ordinary people against elites. And this incident highlights potential difficulties in Farage transitioning from a charismatic figurehead. Now, I have my doubts about being charismatic. I find him boring, but that's my own opinion. But as a charismatic figurehead to managing a much larger political organisation with hundreds of newly elected officials. And for critics who already view Farage as divisive or authoritarian in his leadership style, this resignation provides supporting evidence, doesn't it? And then there could be some loyalty testing here, couldn't there? Because how Farage handles this situation sends a message to other reform councillors about the consequences of dissent potentially affecting party culture. Now, there was always mitigating circumstances, isn't there? Because the significant victory reform just achieved gives Farage substantial political capital that can help weather criticism. Now, many will view this as also just normal challenge for a rapidly expanding political movement. And if this remains as an isolated incident, this news cycle will probably move on quickly. Now, for Farage personally, much depends on whether he responds to this situation as a leader who can manage internal dissent constructively, or whether he appears vindictive and intolerant of criticism. And his response will be closely monitored, obviously, of how he might handle larger leadership responsibilities in the future. But one thing is for certain, Donna Edmonds is the first Refoot councillor to resign. But she certainly won't be the last, will she? But what do you guys think? Is this resignation the first of many, or just an isolated incident? Let me know down below. And if you enjoy everything, Mouse of Commons, Select Committee Meetings, please like and subscribe. And I shall bid you farewell and take care, my friends.